24 hours notice to be able to go and run 50 miles or a double marathon, that's not bad going. Sometimes it's not about a finish line, it's about feeling. And when you know that you've gone out there with a hefty goal, maybe you haven't achieved it, but you've given it literally everything you could have. You can't really ask for more.
What's going through your head, mindset-wise, during the later stages of that race? Welcome to the Fall and Rise podcast, a podcast about real people, real setbacks, and relentless comebacks. Today, we have a bonus episode.
There we go, and Pixie's coming in. Pix.
Come on.
We're joined by the dog. Hello. Just say hello. All right. Anyway, that aside, what were you going to say?
Today, we are talking about Peter's 50-mile run he did at the weekend.
There we go. Let's get it. So, at the weekend, I did a race called Endure 24, and essentially it's a 24-hour run. And you can run in solos, duos, teams, and you basically just see how far you can go. And I signed up to it fairly close to the event, less than 24 hours before, and I went 50 miles. So
what was your original goal with the race?
I mean, originally it was to get a 100-mile run. I've been trying to sort of look to do that whilst I'm 18, to be the youngest Brit ever to do a 100-mile run. And it was something that I'm trying to do around an athletics track. However, I've had a lot of problems with trying to get the track booked, and it's just been a nightmare. So literally, I got in contact with Endure 24, very, very close to the event, said, can you do anything? And they said, yeah, you can sign up on the day. So I came on the Friday, signed up, and then the next afternoon started running.
Nice. Can you explain to us what Endure 24 is?
Well, yeah, it's just a 24-hour running festival. Sorry, I'm getting pestered by the dog. You just see how far you can go in 24 hours. And the goal was 100 miles in 24 hours is a decent benchmark, and it should have been enough time. And yeah, it was a last minute attempt, but I think without the mental preparation and the physical preparation that would go into something of that nature, you have weeks before where you know that you're going to do it. You can psych yourself up, and physically you can build up to it and then taper down so that you're nice and prepared, but ready, rested and recovered for the run. And that just wasn't there. But 50 miles it's
a long way.
It's a long way. So that's like a double marathon.
And it was a 5-mile loop, right?
Yeah.
So you did 10 loops.
It was a 5-mile loop course, and you basically just ran a load of them. So initially I was running 2 laps. So I was running 10 miles or 16 kilometers. And then I was sitting down in my camp chair as it basically just pelted down with rain. And then as things got further and further in, and I crossed the marathon mark and then crossed the 50k mark, and it was 1 lap and a sit down and just see how far we can go.
What's going through your head, mindset wise, during the later stages of that race?
Not a lot, to be fair. Like, it rained the first 7 hours, and the trails were getting muddy, people were falling over, everyone was soaked through. And I think you get to stage where you've been running for such a long time, you're just worn down, and it started getting dark. So the thing, when it started really getting tough, I've been running for about 10 hours. 10 hours of running is like, that's rough.
It's a long time.
But I think on basically 24 hours notice to be able to go and run 50 miles or a double marathon, that's not bad going.
Yeah, when I turned up at 45 miles, you were in tears, in a bit of a state. How did you psych yourself back up to go one more lap?
So basically, for context, Jonah came and brought me a KFC. And now, 45 miles of running, a KFC was pretty elite. It was a bit of a lifeline. It sort of resurrected me slightly, but I think at that stage I'd given it everything I could have. And 45 miles of running, about 10 hours or so, I was just done. So like I wasn't upset that I couldn't go any further because I knew that I'd given it literally everything I could have, and I was very content with my effort. But you pushed me out, and I did another lap, which I basically hobbled round.
What's going through your head about, I don't know, 30 miles in where you start having those thoughts, you're like, I'm not going to make the 100. What's going through your head then?
Well, the thing that happened is I was on track for the 100 miles. My pace was on track. I was basically going to have done the first 50 miles running in about 11 hours. And with 24 hours in the event, there was enough time, but I knew that I basically got to a stage when I hit 45 miles that I couldn't really run now. And I was just really slowed down, and I knew I wasn't going to make it because I'd have to, having already ran a 50 miles in 11 hours, I'd have to do exactly what I'd just done when I was fresh with only an extra 2 hours. So I knew that I was going to need longer breaks. I knew that I wasn't moving as fast. And aside from that, I just basically couldn't run. So we worked it out, and it was, if I basically hobbled around this course, because I was ended up doing 15 minutes per kilometre from 6 minute 30, so I was going really slow. And if I basically walked the last 12 hours or so, I'd have only got to 128 kilometres, which...
Yeah, and you'd still have another 40-ish K to go.
Yeah, so that would have been 24 hours to do 128K. And it was just wasn't worth it. And even on that lap that I was walking, like, it was so incredibly tough because you'd already done 45 miles. Yeah. And I could just, I think mentally I was done. And like I say, I wasn't upset or I didn't feel like I let myself down because I literally gave it everything. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not about a finish line, it's about feeling. And when you know that you've gone out there with a hefty goal, maybe you haven't achieved it, but you've given it literally everything you could have. You can't really ask for more.
Yeah. What would you say failed you first, your body or your mind?
That's a good question. I think it's hard to say, but I think initially it was sort of like you're mentally becoming very worn down from what you're doing. And even the idea that you're not even halfway, you're in tremendous discomfort, pain, it can sometimes be even torturous at times. And you know that you're not even halfway, you've got to do all of that again. It's going to be a lot worse. That can be very mentally difficult, combined with you're giving it absolutely everything you can. And like I say, you're running for like 12 hours. And then I knew from about 9 hours in that I wasn't going to make it. I knew that even though I had 24 hours, 9 hours in, I knew that I worked out in my head I was not going to make it. So even then, that's the first mental defeat right there. Because you know that even if you give it your all, you're not going to get it. But I think also physically, like I say, at about 45 miles, like my body was just done. I couldn't run anymore. I'd ran up until that point, but I was just giving it everything I could have.
Yeah. This is your first major fail, if you'd say. You haven't achieved your goal.
Yeah.
What have you learned from it?
See, it's interesting that you use the word failure because I can't find another 18-year-old kid who's running 50 miles. However, yes, the initial objective was not achieved. So I suppose if you aim for the stars and land on the moon, it's not a bad thing. But in life, you've got to have setbacks. If you don't fall, you don't rise. If you don't have these setbacks, then you don't know how you react when you hit them. And ultimately, I look back on it and I think, okay, I didn't achieve the goal. The goal was to become the youngest Brit to run 100 miles. There's still time, may I say. This is not the end. There's still time. But ultimately, the harder it is, the more worthwhile it is. And if I had went there and everything had been pretty smooth sailing, then it wouldn't have meant as much.
Yeah.
If I had no problems and just cruise through it, then what does it mean? Whereas going forward, now that it's harder to obtain, therefore there's more value within it.
Yeah.
If it was something anyone could do, then I'd have no desire to achieve it. And especially, like I say, going forward, when I go again and hopefully, I achieve it, it's going to mean more.
Yeah. What's the big thing that you like, I need to change for the next time, mindset wise and physically wise?
I think maybe not signing up 24 hours before the run would help.
Yeah.
I think having that extra preparation, so obviously mindset is very important going into these things, and it sort of got to the stage in this one where normally there's something that keeps you going, something that drives you, that desire, that will, that fight in you. And when things get tough, you fight through, you push through, and you have a bigger reason as to why you're doing it. Whereas on this one, it was so last minute where it was sort of, there wasn't that reason. And when things did get tough, obviously I pushed on. But when it got past just pushing on and you had to go to that dark place to get it done, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And because there was nothing there, I was happy with my effort and I was proud of what I'd done. And, that was the end.
Yeah. And I made sure before you was certain you were finished, I made sure that you were happy with what you'd done, happy with what you'd achieved, and was happy enough to walk away from the race without having like a regret. Do you think did you have a regret?
I have absolutely no regrets. I mean, like I say, I gave it absolutely everything I could have. Like, I couldn't have done more. My whole thing is go further even when it seems impossible. I went another lap, so we did go further.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I know sometimes where things get tough and you want to quit, and your mind's telling you want to quit, and your body's telling you want to quit. And if you go ahead and do that, then afterwards you'll feel like you failed. However, even straight afterwards, a day after, a few days after now, there's absolutely no regret within me, because sometimes things don't go to plan, and sometimes you're going to take a fall, you're going to take a hit, but it's how you come back from that. And potentially the only way I could see this as a failure is if I don't try again.
Yeah.
Because I gave it everything I could have on the day, and I don't consider that a failure. But the only failure would be afterwards, now going, I didn't get it, that was too tough, and not trying again.
Yeah. Like you said, it was tough. And to think you've got to go another 50 miles is a long way. How's the recovery going after a race like that?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, the next day, less than 24 hours after the race, I was playing paddle. So for those who don't know, it's basically like tennis. So I was playing paddle the next day.
Bit of active recovery.
I got 12,000 steps in the day after a 50-mile run. So in terms of recovery, I don't know how optimal that is.
I mean, your last lap was
slow.
No, but it was also like after midnight.
Okay, yeah. So maybe not then. Some of those steps.
some of those steps would have been on your 8K loop.
Yeah. But I mean, recovery's going fairly well. The only thing that's proven problematic is my big toenail is peeling off. If we're going to be honest, it's all about transparency. That's not feeling too good right now. So apart from that, my legs are getting better. I'll probably go for a run tomorrow. But apart from that, the only problem is my toenail peeling off. So
very nice. Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
When do you hope to try again?
Look, I don't know. It's difficult because, as I said earlier, I want to do the 100 miles around an athletics track. I want to do that, and that's the thing I've been trying to put together. It's taken so long to find a track and to have them get back with confirmation that literally I signed up to this race and was just fed up, and that's why I did it. But I think hopefully we're in June now, so hopefully June. But I turn 18 in August, so I have until August.
Yeah.
If I want to be 18, it will still be a record when I'm 19, but 18 sounds a little bit
cooler.
Cooler. So I'd say June, but I think fingers crossed I'll be able to make it a bit of a deal and people can come down and get involved. The whole problem that we're having actually is that because I'm 18, as you know, you have to be 20 years old to partake in the UK in a 100-mile run. And seeing as I want it to be an official thing, I could have lied about my age and signed up to a 100-mile race when you're meant to be 20 and I'm 18. However, I didn't want to do that because I don't want to get the race in trouble with their licenses for insurance purposes. I don't want to have to lie about my age and disrespect the owners of the race. I want the record to stand and be official because I want to be able to talk about that and be proud about it and, speak of it.
Yeah.
And if I do that and then they go, hey, you lied, that's not great and that's not what I'm about. So there's a few different reasons there. However, you have to be 20 and I'm 18. The loophole with this race, which I realised was, because it's not a set distance of 100 miles, which you need to be 20, it's actually an 8K loop or a 5-mile loop and a 24-hour duration. So you only have to be 18 to do it.
Yeah.
So if I could manage to do it within that time, that would be the loophole around it.
Yeah. So we've just got to hopefully find another endurance kind of race.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, ultimately, doing it around the track is what I want to do. However, I think I might do my independent race and just sacrifice the run being a part of an official race.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's part of an official race. It'll be recorded as such and it'll be official. However, I don't think anyone's going to dispute if I ran in a circle for 24 hours around the track.
Yeah.
If I've got it on, GPS tracking, if there's witnesses there, there's going to be numerous people that will be there for the full duration of the 24 hours. And of course, people will be able to come throughout. I don't think there's going to be really any dispute about it. So I'm not too worried. But I think doing it around an athletics track would be cool. We can make a bit of a thing about it. Anyone I would have thought would be welcome to come down, run a few laps. Yeah,
make it more of a community.
Yeah, of course. If we can tie it into different things, get people involved. There's lots of different ideas that are floating about, but at the moment, the main problem has been getting the track booked, because I got in contact with a few different tracks. Some of them, the problems that we're facing are they're not open 24 hours, and they're not going to open for 24 hours, so they can't help. Some of the tracks they're even publicly accessible and are open 24/7. I don't want to go on because I'd rather it be a contained environment where obviously we're going to have a lot of equipment out, and I want it to be, we've got the track for 24 hours. We don't have to worry about getting in other people's way when they're using the track, etc., etc. But then also a lot of the tracks are council tracks. And if you're in the UK, you know that trying to get in hold of the council to sort anything is an issue. So imagine trying to book something as meagre and as small as an athletics track. They just don't get back to you. I've been in the council offices multiple times just trying to speak to someone just to let them know what we're doing and just book the track, because obviously we need the lights on in the dark. Otherwise you'll be running in the dark, and if we're going to have people there supporting and capturing it on video, it's not going to be great. So there's a few different things. So at the moment, the main problem is actually just having them come back and say, yeah, look, you can book the track, this is how much it's going to cost, and we just pay them. That's what we need to happen. So Basingstoke and Dean Council, if you're watching this, pattern up. Thank you.
Let's maybe cut that. Yeah. As this is a bonus episode, we won't ask you our questions.
Yeah.
We've already asked you those. So thank you for explaining to everyone how it went.
Yeah, that's the 50-mile attempts, and obviously that's sort of what's going on with the 100 miles at the moment. So if there's any questions, if anyone's actually interested, there you go. If there's any further questions, shoot us a message, And if you want to be involved, if you want to come down to the run, or you have any things that you want to see,
or if you have anyone that might be able to help.
Yes, if you know anyone, right? We're in sort of Berkshire, Hampshire area of the UK. If you have someone who can get us a track for 24 hours, an enclosed track, shoot us a message and we can work something out. That'd be really good.
Thank you.
Sweet.